Okay, guys, let me itch my back for a second. That's not how I want to start at this. Anyways, today I'm gonna start with a little bit of a rant. It's not necessarily a rant about this, but it is a rant about the author G.J. Walker Smith. I've done a couple of her books already, and the plan was, if you've seen the review of, how do I put this? If you've seen my last review of her previous book, there we go, you'll know that I have just been waiting for this series to finish. There's quite a few books in the series, and by the time that I discovered the series, I think most of them were out. And that was like 5 or 6 years ago. So we have been waiting 5 or 6 years for the final book in this series. And it literally gets pushed back 6 months to 6 months to 6 months. I actually thought that it was going to come out this year. It was supposed to come out this month, at the end of the month. And so my plan was to do this whole week of Wishes series. And wouldn't you know it, the book is not supposed to come out until December. So I'm a little frustrated. And I feel like some of my frustration is going to be taken out on these next few books. I also think that as I'm rereading them, now I love these books. I think they're super whimsical. I love the voice. But whenever I reread them, I am seeing more and more that I don't like. And so I'm trying to be fair, okay? Trying to do a review that purely reflects how I feel about the book and not how irritated I am with the author. Honestly, guys, like, she's got a website that I don't know the last time it was updated. She's never on social media. So there's no explanation as to why this book will not come out. It's not that hard. Readers understand that sometimes books don't come out when they're supposed to. She's a person too. She's a self-published author, so it's not like she has an agent or a publisher being like, get your book out. J.K. Rowling with Goblet of Fire, she completely missed her deadline. Like, it happens. But as I was saying, G.J. Walker Smith is a self-published author, so she can publish in her own sweet time. Yet she gives her readers nothing. And we're so frustrated with her. So Smith, if you're watching this, I'm going to say it again, just let us know. Or freaking publish the book. You wrote 2 other books when you could have written this one and finished it. There's my ranty PSA, and we're going to get into today's book, Secret North by G.J. Walker Smith. And this one is, I should know this is book 4 of the Wishes series. My favorite by far has been the first one. However, any book that involves Charlie and Adam as the main protagonist tend to do better with me. This book is actually centered around Adam's brother Ryan and his love interest Bente. I loved this book a whole lot more the first 1 or 2 times that I read it, but this time through, I just didn't love it as much. I can't say it's a bad book. I think just for me, I would like it to be a bit more polished, and I think that is something that happens when you're a self-published author. I've said this before. We just don't tend to get the feedback we need to make it the best book it can be, because guys, you know what? I love you, but you're not reliable. When authors ask friends, family, fellow writers to read, to be critique partner, to be a beta reader, that is so helpful. Yet, the people that offer rarely come through. Secret North revolves around Ryan and Bente. Now, we met both of these in previous books, although we don't get a whole lot about their relationship. What we know is that Ryan is a playboy, and Bente is a hardworking girl who he met because she worked at his restaurant, and he ended up sleeping with her. I think it's been like 2 years or something, and broke her heart. She goes off to, I think, Boston. They're living in New York. She goes off to Boston, finds out it's not where she needs to be, so she comes back to New York. And it's at this point that they run into each other because she has just been fired from her job. Here is my first problem, okay? We learn that even though he's a playboy and he sleeps around, he actually slept with her twice. And so that meant that she was just a little bit more special than the rest of them. Yet, we don't know anything about what happened between them. Yet, when they first meet, in the beginning of the book, he's like, she's the one that got away. And I'm just thinking, why? On one hand, it's fine. Like, if you've never read the book and you don't know what's coming, then it's okay to ask why. I mean, because that is a good question for the reader. The reader wants to know, why is this person so special? Because our main characters need to be special for us to care. We never really learn why he calls her his pecan girl, because I guess it's better than just being some, I actually don't remember where the reference comes from, but pecan pie girl means that she's unique, she is special. We don't really know why, what has made her so special, because we never get the juice. We never get the goods on their previous relationship. All we know is he broke her heart, she left, then they run into each other again, and she doesn't trust him yet. Now let's get back into the plot. They go out to dinner. Almost immediately, he's like, move in with me. Oh, I know what happened was she couldn't live with her sister because her sister has two tiny terrors. And she was like, I can't live here anymore. So he goes, yeah, move in with me. And literally, this has been like 2 weeks from them running into each other again. I feel like there's a lot of underdevelopment here, a lot of under or lack of characterization for me to believe that this should be a situation that's happening, especially because he lives in a 2-bedroom apartment. So if he's just saying move in and live in my extra room, I'm cool with that. But he's like, move in because I want you to live with me. And I actually don't remember if they have established themselves as boyfriend girlfriend at this point, but I'm just like, Bente? Which, can I tell you how much I love that name? Because I have this fascination with the Dutch language, and Bente is a Dutch name. And so when I first read this book, because it's B-E-N-T-E, I was like, I know how to pronounce that name, because in Dutch, an E can be pronounced as an A, and I was just like, what? So yes, but Bente, I'm like, you hate this guy, yet you're willing to move in with him. You don't trust him, yet you're willing to move in with him. Long story short, they then, a couple months later, decide to get married. And that's about the midway point, because then the rest of the book is about their wedding plans, and they're only going to be engaged for 2 months. So if we are doing the math, this is like a 6-month relationship before they get married. He has never been in a relationship in his life. Yet. He's marrying this girl whose heart he had broken. He didn't see her for 2 years, sees her again, almost immediately says, move in with me, and then they go on and get married. G.J. Walker-Smith is a grown woman. This, to me, feels like a teenage girl's fantasy. And it wouldn't be so bad if it were just one book, but oh no, she did the same exact plot line in the Wishes book with Adam and Charlie. Well, there's a little difference there, but it's essentially the same plot line. 2 people meet, automatically fall in love, and then get married in a spur of the moment decision. They decide to get married, and Bente is like, I just want something simple. Her sister, who is basically a pageant dress maker, offers to make Bente's wedding dress, offers to make the dresses for the bridal party, and then Ryan's mother joins into the fun. And if you haven't figured out, Ryan is exceptionally wealthy. So his mother comes in with all of her big dreams because her other son, Adam, got married at the courthouse, so she didn't get to do any of that with him. So she joins forces with Ivy, brings all of her money, and this small, simple wedding turns into a big to-do. Bente is slowly freaking out, and then here's a spoiler at the end of the book. She's like, I can't do it! And Ryan, of course, is thinking it's his fault. It's not about the wedding, it's about him. Like, he still hasn't proved himself to her that he is reliable and that he's a changed man. When she's like, no, it's really the fact that I don't like what they've done to my wedding. And so Adam and Charlie step in, give their mother the wedding that she's always wanted, and then Ryan and Bente try to go to the courthouse, but it's a weekend, so the courthouse is closed. So then they go to the restaurant where they first met, and they eat pecan pie. They're arranging a time to go to the courthouse, only things keep cropping up, so they're like, well, why don't we just go to the courthouse when the wind blows, when we feel like it, when we find a moment. And oh, but do we really actually need an officiant to wed us? We'll just exchange vows right here at the table, which it's cute, it's sweet, but they're not legally married. So that's not really the point, but they're not legally married. It's just, you know, makes all of our female hearts melt. Before I get into the meat, I want to talk about Adam and Charlie, because out of all the things that I thought were really weak about the main plot, I really enjoyed seeing Adam and Charlie because we're continually seeing them grow. There's a lot in this book that if you haven't read the rest of the series, you don't really understand what's going on with them and why they're having problems. And I'm not going to get into that because I need to read the next book to remind myself. I only have a vague recollection of why they're behaving the way they were behaving. But I really enjoy seeing them. And I enjoy seeing Charlie because I have issues with Charlie. As much as I love her, I don't understand her. Ryan calls her Tinkerbell, which is a really great description because she's not really got both feet on the ground, and so it makes her endearing, but then she'll do things that you're like, that doesn't fall in line with this characterization of you believing in fairies and wishes, and or even like she's a little hellion, she's pretty mischievous, yet so this is just establishing that she will stand her ground. Yet she'll get into certain situations where she doesn't stand her ground, like in the second book where she follows Adam to New York and she loses herself, which that's not a problem for me. That is a great dilemma for a book. However, for Charlie and the way that it played out, I thought didn't make sense. About Charlie, I have Bridget, and so Charlie is essentially raising Bridget with the same mindset she had, which I don't mind. I really don't. It makes them so charming, and it is kind of what makes these books so great, is this voice that Smith gives where almost anything is possible, where magic is real, where we should believe the unbelievable. And so you really like the outlook that these characters have on the world. Yet, it's almost within that realm of thought, Bridget has no supervision, no discipline, like no parenting. And then Ryan comes in, or actually more like Bente comes in, and so Bente doesn't come from money. So there's this one incident in which Ryan has now taken over babysitting duties for Bridget. Bridget gets into all of Bente's stuff. One of the items that she grabs is a scarf. Ryan is like, okay, the lesser of all these evils to let her have is this scarf. And so she's running around with it and all this good stuff. And then Bente finds out, and she's like, it's an Hermes scarf, which super expensive. And it was something that Bente had saved a long time for, so it meant a lot to her. And she's like, so Ryan just lets her have my scarf. And then when Charlie finds out, yeah, she calls and apologizes, but still she's excusing Bridget's behavior. Nobody ever punishes Bridget for doing something she shouldn't have done, even though she didn't know she shouldn't do it. Nobody sits her down and says, look, or Ryan doesn't even say, look, you don't go into other people's stuff. Charlie never tries to get the scarf back from Bridget and give it to Bente. All Ryan does is he buys Bente like 4 more Hermes scarves, and then Charlie buys her another scarf, and it's like, this is a band-aid for the situation, okay? This is not antiseptic. Like, this is not getting into the problem. Yes, so Bente comes in, and all this behavior of Bridget's, I like Bridget in the same way that I love Charlie, because she has some really amazing moments. But at the same time, she'll get into these really bossy situations, demanding, like, you can see she's a little princess. And so I'm trying, like with Charlie, I'm trying to balance those two sides of her. And I just can't. I don't understand who Bridget is supposed to be. Like with Charlie, is she supposed to be not sweet? She's supposed to be like whimsical and charming and endearing and this really childlike character, or is she a brat? I think she's a brat because she gets everything she wants. And it's not in this really overt, obnoxious way, but if you pay attention, you notice nobody says no to her. If she wants something, she gets it. Ryan will notice when she's using her basically like, let me have it voice. I want it, give me what I want. And so this, I don't know if it has so much to do with the book and the writing as it does with my own personal preference as to how children should be raised. In many ways, it does come back to the writing because like with Charlie, I don't understand Bridget. And by not being able to understand Bridget means I can't connect with her. I don't know if I'm supposed to like her or dislike her. All kids have moments that they can be great most of the time and then they just turn into little brats. But I that's not the sense I got from this book. I did not get the sense that Bridget was just having a moment. It was more like, well, Bridget is a multi-personality sufferer. Here's another example. Let me backtrack a little bit. When it comes to Ryan babysitting Bridget, the thing is, even though he's really wealthy, he's not a layabout. He is really business-minded, and so he owns restaurants. His newest restaurant, which is called Billet Doux, I think I pronounced that right. I don't know how to speak French. But Adam, in the previous book, when he and Charlie had gotten married and he was trying to keep her happy, keep her in New York, he had signed over his portion of ownership to Charlie. So in this book, she is still part owner, even though she could care less about ownership. Not only does she have that, but she has her job at the art gallery. And so what she does is, actually, I completely missed my point there. The point is, Ryan works at the restaurants. He's the manager. He's an owner. So he has job. He has responsibility. Plus, he and Adam have found a new location to open a new restaurant. Lots on his plate, okay? And then Charlie says, I need a sitter. I don't have time to find one. Can you help me? And it's like, yeah, sure. And of course, over the course of the novel, essentially Charlie just takes more and more advantage of him, which is when I have an issue with her because she is not set up to be that kind of person. She's set up to be someone who's incredibly thoughtful. Besides the point. So Ryan is supposed to take care of Bridget. I don't actually remember if it was like his set time or if Charlie, no, it wasn't. Charlie was like, last minute emergency, I need your help. He's like, I don't have time to help you. I have so much to do. She talks him into it. He's at home and I'm a former nanny, okay? So I totally get this, where sometimes you just need to get stuff done and all you want is for the kid to entertain themselves. Ryan is trying to get stuff done and Bridget is not sitting still. And one of her things is she constantly jumps off of surfaces because she wants to fly, because her mother has led her to believe she can fly. Ryan loses it because she almost jumps off of something where she really could have gotten hurt. So he sits her down and he tells her the truth. He's gonna burst her bubble. He's like, you cannot fly. And I'm like, yes, Ryan, yes, somebody please parent this child. And you think that Bridget gets it. No, she doesn't. Spoiler alert. He's like, all right, I guess we're not getting any work done here because all you want to do is run around, so I'm going to take you to the park. He's there. He's still getting his kind of what he can done. And the next thing he knows, Bridget has fallen off of a play apparatus, and now she's got to go to the hospital. And of course, Charlie is livid with him. Not necessarily because Bridget got hurt, but because Ryan told Bridget she can't fly. And this all goes back to Charlie, I guess, was not a natural mother. Her own father was 17 when she was born. She never met her mother. She didn't know he was her father. She thought he was her brother. So she never had a mother figure. So when Bridget was born, she was like, Adam was a natural at it. And then she meets you and she automatically attaches to you. But with me, it's taken a lot of work. And the only thing that I could ever give her was this part of me, these stories, these ideas, and now you're telling her they're not true. So she's really upset with Ryan, and I see it, but at the same time, I'm like, Charlie, I don't think you're instilling good principles in your child. Like, there is Fantasyland, and then there's safety. Adam is completely fine with it too, because he looks at Ryan and he goes, dude, she jumped. She didn't fall, she jumped. It wasn't your fault. Like, it was gonna happen. And so here's this moment where I'm like, I mean, eventually when Ryan reveals what he told Bridget about not being able to fly, then Adam gets mad. But my whole thought process here is nobody seeing the flaw in the parenting, that like Bridget, nobody's telling her no. They're just encouraging her fantasy life. It really bothers me that Ryan is the one getting in trouble when they are the ones perpetuating the problem and then leaving everybody else to deal with it. Anyways, let's talk about Ivy for a bit, because honestly, in the beginning, I'm not an Ivy fan, largely because her daughters are holy terrors. And it's, again, one of those situations where, like, lady, take care of business. Discipline your kids. But she doesn't. As the book progresses, Ivy evolves, and you really see why she is the way she is, and kind of maybe why her daughters are the way they are, because she has so much on her plate. But she's not just some irresponsible mother. She's trying really hard, and she's working with what she has. The thing, though, that I want to talk about is the fact that she designs pageant dresses. And she's supposed to be this incredibly talented seamstress. Yet, if that's her sole business, I mean, it's understandable why at the end they kind of address money, because it's a hit or miss kind of deal where sometimes people want dresses, sometimes they don't. So I'm like, why is she solely depending on this? Like, she has 2 kids. We have no idea who the fathers are, so I don't think she's getting any child support. But I'm like, that, for somebody who's supposed to be so responsible, that's highly irresponsible. And then, how is she finding, oh, I broke a nail. Oh dear, sorry. How is she finding the time to spend hundreds of hours on Bente's wedding dress, on the dresses for the bridesmaids and the flower girls, if she is also trying to support her own kids? So I really liked that Ivy is talented at something, and that as gaudy and gauche as her creations are made out to be, because honestly, if you've ever seen a pageant dress, yes, they're gaudy and gauche. She's really good at it. So I like that she's not just some tacky sister, but she does have a talent. Although, again, it was something that was underdeveloped. But that reminds me of an even bigger point. And this is something I felt was completely unnecessary. When Bente and Ryan get engaged, she makes a mention of telling her parents, because her parents apparently are professional cruisers. They're always going on a cruise. And so they say, yeah, we'll come. We'll come on a Friday, we'll watch you get married, we'll go out on another cruise on a Sunday. And then they get word to her that, you know what, we're not going to come at all. We just want to keep cruising. And here is my problem. I was fine without her parents. Like, she's in her mid to late 20s. So why are her parents even rating a mention? But the real issue is, now we go on this tangent, which I'm the queen of tangents, so really, what am I complaining about? They go on this tangent of how irresponsible her parents are and how they were really never meant to be parents. And then it goes into, well, they are able to afford these cruises because, as I said, Bente and Ivy didn't come from money. So at some distant point, her parents had come into a windfall from some unknown aunt or something. And they just, for the rest of their lives, I guess, they're just gonna live on a boat and cruise everywhere. You get into, I guess it's an attempt at rounding out Bente, but I was like, I didn't need this at all. G.J. Walker-Smith is really great at ending chapters or at making seemingly insignificant moments connect to something bigger. And so that's what she does with that whole little, like, my parents are deadbeats deal. But I thought that she could have achieved that connection in a different way. That is my little rant about the Bente parent thing, where completely unnecessary. But that then connects to, there are a lot of really short chapters, or not even chapter scenes. Like, the chapters generally are very short, but like, if you see here, there is a delineation in the scene, so it's to let you know a certain amount of time has passed. We're kind of in the same space, but we still want to remain in this chapter. There's a lot of those, and they're not even that long sometimes. It'll be like a paragraph maybe, and then we get thrown into another part of the chapter. And for me, some of these little scenes could be incorporated into the larger scene. Like, they don't need to have that kind of delineation, or they could be cut entirely. They're completely unnecessary. And that is when I'm thinking that the writing of this book needed a little bit more fine-tuning, not only with the plot and character development, but the actual writing. Her obscene use of adverbs and voice tags completely undermines what she tries to do. At her heart, G.J. Walker-Smith is a really great writer. That's what made me fall in love with this series in the first place, is the voice. It is super engaging. I mean, at least for me, I don't think this is a guy series by any means, but I think for a female, we can really connect with the whimsy of all of her characters. And so she has great one-liners. She makes really poignant observations. She just says things in a way where you're like, huh. But then she does that. This sentence would have been so much stronger if you hadn't had that adverb, if you hadn't had that voice tag, if you hadn't done this, if you hadn't done that. That's where my nitpicky side comes in, where I'm like, I would have enjoyed this so much more, but there's a tenth of a point. There's a tenth of a point. There's a tenth of a point. So the book goes from really great to mediocre, you know? Another character I'm not so sure about is Jean-Luc, and that is Ryan and Adam's dad. Now, what I don't get here, it's not necessarily as relevant to this book as it is previous books, because Jean-Luc, when you meet him, he's supposed to be kind of the good cop. He's the nice parent. So the fact that in this book we see him as much more of a villain, it doesn't make sense to me, because it came kind of out of nowhere. And I mean, I know that Smith sets it up, but I didn't think she set it up well enough for me not to be surprised when I see how terrible he is to Charlie. Or even Fiona. You know, she'll take Bente aside to discuss something, and then she'll sneak in little barbs about Charlie, yet in front of everyone she seems fine with Charlie. Or even with Charlie, oh gosh, hold on. As I was saying, or even with Charlie, she acts fine. So again, it goes back to characterization with all of these characters where I don't understand. It's like, if you've ever tried to write something, your mood can dictate how you write, how you progress a character. And I just don't know if maybe Smith was in one headspace when she wrote one chapter and another headspace when she wrote another. Like, was she happier at one point? Or was she sitting there thinking, oh, I need to make something happen. I need to create tension. So now I'm going to have the parents being really terrible towards Charlie. So it just, I just don't feel like there's consistency within any of her characters from start to this book, okay? And so, yes, for me, who has been reading the series, and for you, if you're reading the series, you will notice it too, where characters seem, except for Adam, I feel like Adam is the most consistent. But yeah, you meet a character and they seem to be one way, and then they evolve, and then they devolve, and then they evolve. And I know a lot of people are like that, but here it just doesn't work. I'm trying to think, is there anything else I missed? There's a girl named Trieste who we meet in Second Hearts. I don't understand the purpose for her. Like, I understood her purpose as being someone who brought Adam out of his shell, maybe kept him from sinking too far, maybe brought some truths into his life. But other than that, she, again, incredibly underdeveloped. In Secret North, she reappears. And so the deal is, Ryan was a playboy, or is a playboy, whichever way you want to put it. Even though he and Bente are together and now she's living in his apartment, girls keep showing up. And at one point there is this one girl at the door and Bente is incredibly rude to her. And then she's like, well, maybe I'll just backtrack and tell you he's not here, come back later. We learn that this is Trieste, and Trieste is getting married. And what she wants from Ryan is essentially to pay for her wedding dress. Does that sound as ridiculous to you as it does to me? Because even though money is no object to the de Caries, still, I feel like that's awfully presumptuous of a person to be like, this is how much my dress is gonna cost. Like, do you mind paying for it? And again, I think that goes back to the underdevelopment. Like, we don't really understand the relationship between these people. Especially for me, Trieste had a relationship with Adam, not with Ryan. Although over the course of the 2 or 3 years that it has been taking place since the last book, like, I guess Trieste could have developed a friendship with Ryan. I don't know. I think it's a bit wishy-washy, but you gotta have some kind of relationship with a person to essentially have them fund your wedding. I mean, maybe Walker Smith or Smith, whatever you want to call her, is trying to just get at how generous these de Caries boys are. But I was just like, I didn't understand Trieste in the first book. And we get even less of her in this book, except that she is using Ryan and Adam as her bankroll. That's about it. This one went longer than I thought it would, considering how short this book is and how much time I don't have right now. I hope to see you soon, and yeah, I don't ever know when this series is going to end, but I'm just going to get through it a little bit at a time, and then we are going to dangle until G.J. Walker Smith decides to get her act together. So, see you later, and let me know if you have any recommendations. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to comment, don't forget to help me make this better. Bye!